Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We're so glad you're here today. My name is Katrina Kopernick, and I am the administrative manager here at the South Carolina Apex Accelerator. Before we officially get started, I did want to just take a moment to share who we are and what we do. At the South Carolina Apex Accelerator, we provide no-cost assistance to small businesses across the Carolinas that are interested in government contracting. We are not consultants here, but we are counselors, so we do not do the work for you, but we do walk alongside you, helping you to understand the process and make informed decisions along the way. Our procurement counselors are truly passionate about educating and supporting our clients here, whether you're just getting started or you're looking to grow in the government marketplace. Right now, we work with about 2,300 client businesses, and since 2021, those businesses have secured more than $600 million in government contracts. Those results really reflect the power of preparation, guidance, and partnership, and we're excited to help you start or continue that journey today. By now, you all may be aware that the CMMC requirements are effective as of November 10th of last year. With all the changes thus far, we have partnered with Project Spectrum to discuss cybersecurity resilience for government contractors. Please allow me to introduce you to Rick from Project Spectrum, who is going to be our speaker and expert. I will go ahead and pass it on to him now.
Thank you, Katrina. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Now, but do you want a speaker or do you want an expert? Because I can't. I'm sorry.
A little bit
Never
of
mind.
both.
Oh, a little bit of both. All right, I'll do my best.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. All right. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. As Katrina said, I'm Rick with Project Spectrum, and I am genuinely excited to go ahead and spend the next hour with you talking about one of my favorite topics, which is keeping bad guys out of your business. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. An hour on cybersecurity. Did I accidentally sign up for an app? I get it. But here's the thing. By the end of today, you're going to understand exactly how to protect your company, stay compliant, and maybe, just maybe, you'll sleep a little better at night knowing you've got a plan, and then you won't need that nap. So let's go ahead and dive in. And again, just want to say that if you have questions as we go along, go ahead and drop them into the chat. We are going to tackle as many of them as we possibly can. All right, so quick introduction so you know who's talking at you for the next hour. I'm going to try to talk to you, but sometimes it sort of goes the other direction. My name is Rick. Last name is long and Polish. It is spelled exactly how it sounds, Ostapowicz, which is to say that it's not at all spelled how it sounds. I'm the Strategic Communications Jedi Master for a nonprofit known as Move America, and I work very closely with the absolutely amazing Project Spectrum outreach team. Now, for those of you who don't know, Project Spectrum is a DoD-recognized initiative. That's the Department of Defense for anyone who hasn't had their coffee yet. And our whole mission is helping businesses like yours navigate the cybersecurity landscape without needing a PhD in computer science or a direct line to the NSA. Now, Project Spectrum provides tools, training, and resources, all free, all designed specifically for small and medium-sized businesses in the defense industrial base and outside of it as well. Just think of us as your cybersecurity Sherpas. We've climbed this mountain, we know where the crevices are, and we're going to help you get to the summit without hopefully falling in. So a couple of quick housekeeping items before we get rolling. Your microphone is muted, so don't panic if you try asking a question and you feel like you're being ignored. We're not ignoring you, I promise. Honestly, we do this on purpose because nothing kills the vibe during a webinar like someone's dog barking, or worse, the dreaded, hey, you're on mute moment, because we all have those on these meetings. All questions, like I said, can be posted to the chat. Also, your camera is off just like the microphone because, quite frankly, we've seen up enough people's nostrils for one lifetime. Seriously, I really think people need to learn how to better position their webcams. And you need to make sure you check how your name is displayed. If it says iPhone user or guest laptop, you might want to update that so we know who's actually asking the questions. And please, please, please use the chat, but use it wisely. Look, we love questions, and we will say that the only dumb question is the one you didn't ask and then lost sleep over later, then needing a nap. But don't use the chat to make disparaging remarks about other attendees or their questions. And please don't use the chat for any self-promotion or not safe for work meme sharing, even if you think it's someone that everyone would enjoy. Lastly, a quick legal housekeeping note before we get rolling. This webinar is being recorded and it will live forever on the Project Spectrum YouTube channel. So yes, your grandchildren might someday watch this. We're broadcasting from our headquarters in the beautiful state of Maryland, which is a two-party consent state for recordings. So that means by staying on this call, you are consenting to be part of a recorded session. Now, remember, your cameras are off and your mics are muted, so it's not like we're capturing your bedhead or that suspicious stain on your shirt or hearing your dog argue with the Amazon delivery person. But if you're not comfortable being part of a recorded webinar, even though we can't see you and can't hear you, you are so much welcome to drop off right now. Trust me, no judgment, no awkwardness, no passive-aggressive LinkedIn unfollowing, and we also promise Taylor Swift will not write a breakup song about you. We won't vote you off the island. Your mother will never find out. Just hop off. We'll send you the replay link later on so you can enjoy this masterpiece later, probably at double speed while eating lunch. And for everyone who's staying, and I'm going to give that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, you're sticking around. I appreciate you. Let's go ahead and do this. So here is our game plan for today. We're going to cover a lot of ground, but I promise to make it digestible and dare say even a little fun. Think of this as the cybersecurity buffet. You take what you need and know that everything's here if you want to come back for seconds later. First, we're going to talk about Project Spectrum, who we are, why we exist, and what exactly we're doing for you and others like you. Then we're going to look at the threat landscape. And folks, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The defense industrial base is under attack daily. If you're a small business working with the government, you've got a target on your back. But knowledge is power, and we're going to go ahead and arm you. Next up, CMMC. That's the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. Always have to say that a little slowly because it is a mouthful. If those letters make you nervous, you're not alone. We're all sort of unnerved by all the acronyms. But at the end of the section, you're going to understand exactly what it means for you and your business. We're going to deep dive into ransomware, what it is, how it works, most importantly, how to defend against it. Spoiler alert, it's not by paying the ransom or by calling Liam Neeson. Then incident response planning, because it's not a matter of if something happens, it's a matter of when. And then finally, we're going to tie it all together with cyber resilience. That's building a company culture that can take a punch and keep moving. Sound good? Excellent. Let's go ahead and get started. So what exactly is Project Spectrum? Well, think of it this way. The DoD Office of Small Business Programs looked at the cybersecurity landscape and said, hey, small businesses need help and they need it yesterday. And guess what? They're right. Here's the reality. When you're a 15-person machine shop making precision parts for the military, you probably don't have a chief information security officer. You probably don't even have a dedicated IT department. You've got Frank from accounting, who's pretty good with computers, and a nephew who set up your Wi-Fi. No judgment, by the way. That's just most small businesses. But when you're handling federal contract information or controlled unclassified information, and we'll get to those a little later, you need more than Frank and the nephew. That's where we come in. See, Project Spectrum provides comprehensive tools and training, free of charge, to help you understand the requirements, assess your current posture, and build a plan to get compliant. We're not here to sell you anything. We're here to help you succeed. And by the way, the citation authorities that you see on the slide, those aren't just bureaucratic references. They're the legal backbone that gives us the mandate to help you. The government said this matters, and they put some resources behind it. And we are thankful they did, and you should be too. All right, so let's talk about why this matters. And I want you to look at these numbers because they should keep you up at night, but in a motivating way, not in a panicked way. 43% of all cyber attacks target small and medium businesses. 43%. Not the big banks, not the Fortune 500 companies with armies of security analysts. No, small businesses, your businesses. Why? Because you're the path of least resistance. Look, I'm not saying that to disparage you at all. Attackers know that big companies have defenses. They know that small companies often don't. So they go where the doors are unlocked or left open. Here's another number. 74% of breaches are caused by human error. It's not sophisticated hacking. It's not nation state cyber warriors. It's someone clicking a link they shouldn't have clicked. Someone using password 123 as their password. Or if you're the Louvre, maybe don't choose Louvre as your password. Huh, guys? Someone was... Then you've also got someone falling for a phishing email that said their Amazon order was delayed. And sadly, my parents did that. And then take a look at that cost range, $826 to $653,000. Those are averages, by the way. That is a huge range. And it depends on what kind of attack you face and how prepared you are. But here's the kicker. Only 17% of small businesses actually have the proper cyber insurance coverage. Only 14% have plans to mitigate the attacks. Look, the math here is brutal. If you're a small business, you're being targeted, you're probably vulnerable, and most of you don't have a plan or the insurance coverage to recover because you're thinking that some little gecko is going to come along and save you. And this is important, that's why you're here today. You're already ahead of the curve just by showing up for this webinar. So let's go ahead and break down exactly why attackers love small businesses. It comes down to three things. First, you've got supply chain access. Look, you might be a 10-person company, but if you're connected to Lockheed Martin or Northrop Grumman through a contract, you're a stepping stone. Hackers compromise you to get to those bigger partners. It's like, you know how in the heist movies, they never go through the front door. They find the one janitor who just so happens to have a key. Guess what? That's you. You're the janitor and you're the door. Second, you've got intellectual property. Just because you're small doesn't mean that what you make isn't valuable. That widget you're manufacturing, that process you perfected, it's worth something on the black market or to a foreign adversary. Third, you've got limited resources. Look, we get it. You're focused on running your business, not on cybersecurity. That's natural. That's normal. But guess what? It leaves gaps, and attackers know how to find them and exploit them. So what are the actual threats? Let me walk you through some of the greatest hits. These are the things that keep cybersecurity professionals up at night, and hence they need a nap. No, they don't come to my webinar to get one. Phishing and social engineering. This is number one with a bullet. For those of you who understand that terminology, good on you. Literally, someone sends you an email that looks legitimate. You click a link and boom, you're just handed them the keys to your kingdom. And oh my goodness, these attacks are getting good. We're talking about emails that look exactly like they came from your bank, your vendor, or your boss. AI is making these even more convincing. Ransomware. We're going to spend a whole section on this one because it's that important. But the short version, they encrypt your files, they demand payment, and even if you pay, you might not get your data back. Then they've got supply chain vulnerabilities. One weak link in your vendor network can compromise everyone. Remember the SolarWinds attack? Guess what? That's the playbook. If you don't know what that is, I guarantee that you should Google it. It's a scary story. Then you've got intellectual property theft. State-sponsored actors, and I'm not being dramatic here, we're talking actual nation states, are actively trying to steal American innovation. Then you've got operational disruption. Beyond the immediate damage, cyber attacks create lingering problems, equipment issues, compliance violations, and something that's really hard to rebuild, which is customer trust. And you do not want to lose that. It's kind of like losing the key to your vehicle in the mall. It's not a good thing, and pretty much somebody else is going to come along and pick it up and take it away. All right, so let's go ahead and shift gears and talk about the elephant in the room for anyone doing any type of defense work. That's CMMC, the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. I know it sounds intimidating, and yes, it's another acronym like the government needs another acronym. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure they have an acronym guide that has an acronym in the name. But I'm going to break it down so that it makes sense. You got to think of this as a three-tier system. It's kind of like a video game where you level up based on the sensitivity of the data you're handling. Level one is foundational. This is for businesses that only handle federal contract information, also known as FCI. Think of FCI as the basic stuff: contract details, organizational charts, process documents. It's important, but it's not classified. At level 1, you implement 15 basic requirements and you self-assess annually. This is the lock your doors and don't leave the key under the mat level. Level 2 is advanced. Now, we're talking about controlled unclassified information, or CUI. Some people call it CUI, but I don't like to call it that because it sounds weird. This is the sensitive stuff. Again, still not classified, but it needs more protection. So at this level, level 2, you're implementing 110 security requirements that are aligned with something known as NIST SP 800-171. That comes from the National Institutes of Standards and Technology. Some contracts let you self-assess. Others will require a third-party assessor to verify. Look, this is the alarm system, motion sensors, and maybe a guard dog level. Then you've got level 3, which is expert. This is for the highest value assets and most sensitive CUI. You're adding 24 more requirements on top of level 2, and a Defense Industrial Base Cybersecurity Assessment Center needs to come out and assess you. Look, this is the Fort Knox level. Most of you will be dealing with level 1, maybe level 2. The key is knowing what data you handle, and that will tell you what level you need. So let's make sure we're crystal clear on the difference between FCI and CUI, because this determines your compliance requirements. Again, FCI, which is federal contract information, is covered under a FAR clause that's listed here with a lot of numbers that I'm not going to read. That's the Federal Acquisition Regulation. FCI is information that is provided by or generated for the government under a contract, but isn't intended for public release. So public release, that's the process to determine that information is proposed for it contains no protected information and is consistent with established agencies and services. Examples are your contract itself, your org charts, your process documentation, performance reports, RFP responses. Again, it's important stuff, but it's not super sensitive. Then you've got CUI. This is a totally different beast. This is like grandma's secret cookie recipe. While it's unclassified, it requires safeguarding. Examples include proprietary business information, technical data, anything marked for official use only or law enforcement sensitive, and so on. Guess what? Here's a rule of thumb for you. If the government is telling you to protect it in a specific way, it's probably CUI. And when you're in doubt, all you need to do is ask your contracting officer. Here's the simple formula. If your contract requires you to handle FCI, then you need at least CMMC level 1. If your contract requires you to handle CUI, you need at least CMMC level 2. The emphasis here is on at least. You can always have more security than required, but you should never have less. And you can't have less if you want to go after those government contracts. And here's a pro tip. Before you bid on a contract, know your data. If a solicitation involves CUI and you're not up to CMMC level 2, you've got work to do. Better to know that up front than to scramble after you've won and potentially end up losing. So here's where things get real, okay? This isn't future tense anymore. CMMC has landed. The rule went live in the Federal Register on September 10th, 2025. That was last year. For those of you who keep writing 2025 on your checks and then have to scribble it out, yes, we're in 2026. Phase 1 began on November 10th of 2025. Again, that's 2 months ago, folks. This is happening now, as in now. Now, I'm going to see some of you typing in the chat. Is this real? Yes. No, it's not getting delayed again. The DFARS rule is final. So why does this matter? Because cybersecurity compliance is no longer optional or nice to have. It's a contractual requirement. If you want to do DoD work, you have to meet these standards. But here's the upside. If you get ahead of this, you have a competitive advantage. You'll have competitors that'll be scrambling, but you'll be ready. You'll be winning those contracts that they can't even bid on. So what should you do right now? Well, you've got three things. You need to assess your current cybersecurity posture. You need to develop that compliance strategy, and you need to stay informed, which, by the way, you're already doing by being here in this webinar. So guess what? Gold star for you. Now, the rollout is phased over 3 years. Phase 1, which started in November, which means phase 1 is happening right now, involves limited contracts selected by the CMMC program office. Think of it kind of as the pilot program. Then you've got phase 2, which kicks in during years 2 and 3 with broader integration across most DoD programs. This is when you'll start seeing CMMC requirements in a lot more solicitations. Phase 3, which is year 4 and beyond, full implementation. Every applicable contract is going to require compliance. The bottom line, by 2028, every contractor that processes FCI or CUI must maintain an active CMMC certification or self-assessment in the SPURS system. That's the Supplier Performance Risk System, your cybersecurity scorecard that the government can see. Look, folks, short story, the train is leaving the station and you want to be on it, not chasing after it or being dragged behind it. All right, so let's talk about the boogeyman of cybersecurity. No, I'm not talking about John Wick. I'm talking about ransomware. If cyber threats were a movie, ransomware would be the villain that just won't stay dead. Kind of like Freddy Krueger or Jason. So what exactly is ransomware? At its core, it's a type of malware. It's malicious software, and it's going to hold your data hostage. It's the digital equivalent of someone changing all the locks on your building and then demanding payment for new keys. Here's how it typically works. Somebody gets an email. It looks legitimate. Maybe it's from what appears to be a vendor or a shipping notification or even the big boss. There's a link or an attachment. Somebody clicks it. Maybe nothing seems to happen right away, but in the background, the ransomware is spreading. It's encrypting files. Think of encryption as scrambling your data in a way that only a specific key can unscramble it. Try unscrambling an egg sometime and see if it works out for you. Your documents, your databases, your customer records, they're all suddenly gibberish. Then comes the ransom note. Usually something like, your files have been encrypted. You need to pay X amount in Bitcoin to this address within 72 hours or your data is gone forever. And guess what? Here's the gut punch. Even if you pay, there's actually no guarantee you're going to get that data back. You are trusting criminals to keep their word. How's that working out? I don't think it's going to be working out very well. The lesson here is that prevention is always better than the cure. You don't want to be in a position where you're debating whether or not to pay criminals and then hope that they're honest criminals. So let's break down how a ransomware attack unfolds. Security professionals call this the kill chain. It's a sequence of events from initial compromise to full attack. Understanding this helps you know where to build defenses. Stage 1 is initial access. This is usually the phishing email, but it can also be exploiting unpatched vulnerabilities or compromising third-party vendor accounts. That exposed remote desktop service you forgot about, guess what? That's an open door. Then you've got stage 2, which is execution. The attacker deploys their payload and starts moving laterally. They spread throughout your network. They're often using legitimate admin tools to just blend in, which makes detection even harder. Then stage 3 is encryption. Files get encrypted. Modern ransomware is smart. It targets your backups first to prevent easy recovery. Then you've got stage 4, which is exfiltration. This is the double extortion play. Before encrypting your data, attackers steal your data. Now they can threaten to publish sensitive information even if you restore from a backup. Stage 5 is extortion. You get the ransom note. They might contact you through a dark web portal. And yes, those things really do exist. They might threaten to tell regulators or even your customers about the breach. It's just ugly. But the good news, each stage is an opportunity to detect and stop the attack. The more stages you can interrupt, the better off you're going to be. So let's go ahead and talk dollars and cents because nothing focuses the mind like talking about money. In 2025, the average ransom demands for large organizations exceeded $5 million. For smaller entities, and that's you, we're talking $50,000 to $500,000. That's potentially enough to put you out of business. But the ransom itself is just the tip of the iceberg. There's downtime and there's lost productivity. Every hour your systems are down is revenue you're not earning, contracts you're not fulfilling, customers you're not serving. For a manufacturing plant, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars per hour. There's regulatory penalties and legal liability on top of this. Guess what? If you're handling CUI and it gets compromised, you've got some explaining to do. Contracts might have specific security obligations that you've now violated. Then there's the reputation damage. Your customers trusted you with their data. That trust, almost impossible to rebuild. Finally, you've got insurance implications. Look, if your cyber insurance has specific requirements that you didn't meet, guess what? They're not going to cover the claim. Sorry, you didn't have MFA enabled is not something you want to hear from your insurance adjuster. All right, enough of the scary stuff. Well, at least that scary stuff. Let's talk about what you can actually do. Here are critical first steps that you can start implementing today. First, conduct a ransomware-specific risk assessment. Identify your high-value assets, your vulnerable entry points, and your potential blast radius. How far could an attack spread? Second, you want to enforce multi-factor authentication for all accounts, especially your privileged ones. Look, MFA is like having a deadbolt and a chain on your door. Even if they get the key, they still can't get in. Third, you can review and update your incident response playbooks. If you don't have a playbook, we'll talk about creating one shortly. Fourth, we're going to have you test your backup and your recovery processes quarterly. Having backups is great. Knowing they actually work is better. I've seen too many companies think they had backups only to find out that they hadn't been running properly for months, and then they end up backing up material from 2022. Fifth, schedule phishing simulation and awareness training. Your employees are your first line of defense. Train them to spot the bad stuff. And when they do spot a phishing email, make sure they report it to IT immediately. Don't just delete it and move on like nothing happened. Look, that's the cybersecurity equivalent of seeing something fall off a truck on the highway and just driving around it. Look, be the hero. IT wants to know about these things. They collect phishing emails like Pokemon. You gotta catch them all so we can block the next wave. Now, you're going to hear this term a lot in cybersecurity. It's called zero trust. No, it's not about being paranoid and trusting no one in your personal life, though if you've ever had a coworker steal your clearly labeled lunch from the break room fridge, I understand the instinct. No, see, zero trust is a security model that is built on a simple principle. Never trust, always verify. Traditional security was like a castle, a hard shell on the outside, but it's soft on the inside. Once you got past the moat, you can pretty much go anywhere. Zero trust assumes the attackers might already be inside the castle, so you have to verify everything every single time. Then you've got key principles. Access is based on least privilege. You only get access to what you need and nothing more. Authentication is continuous, not just at login, but throughout. The network is segmented. Even if one area is compromised, guess what? The attackers cannot easily move laterally, and everything is logged and monitored. Is this a heavy lift? Sadly, it can be. But guess what? You can implement it incrementally. You start with your most sensitive systems and you work yourself outward. The last piece of the ransomware defense puzzle, this is endpoint detection and response, or EDR. Traditional antivirus is like a guard who checks IDs at the door. EDR is like having security cameras, motion sensors, and a quick response team all working together. See, EDR solutions continuously monitor your endpoints, computers, servers, mobile devices, all of that for malicious activity. They can detect telltale signs of ransomware, mass file reaming, rapid encryption, abnormal process creation. Normally, that's good, but more importantly, they can respond in real time. They'll isolate those infected machines before the attack spreads, and they'll provide detailed forensics for post-incident analysis. Truth be told, if you don't have EDR in place, this should be high on your priority list. The cost of the solution is a fraction of the cost of a successful ransomware attack. All right, so let's go ahead and transition to incident response planning, because here's the uncomfortable truth. No matter how good your defenses are, something will eventually get through. The question isn't if you'll have an incident, it's when, and how prepared will you be when it happens. See, incident response, or we call it IR, because why not have another acronym? That's your game plan for when things go sideways. And I cannot stress this enough. You need to have the plan before you need it. You don't want to be Googling what to do when my company is hacked when you're actively being hacked. It's like researching how to swim while you're in the middle of the ocean drowning. For small manufacturers, an incident can spiral quickly into a compliance violation, operational shutdown, or a breach of sensitive data. And without that IR plan, you're making critical decisions in real time under stress, probably at 3 a.m. on a Saturday. And that's just a recipe for bad decisions. What does a solid IR plan give you? First, it gives you a playbook for crisis. Clear steps, defined roles, specific actions, no guesswork. Takes all of that out. Second, you've got regulatory compliance. If you handle CUI, you're required to report certain incidents to the DoD within 72 hours. That's 3 days to identify, assess, and report. And without a good plan, good luck meeting that deadline. Third, you get containment and recovery. A good plan helps you isolate problems early and recover faster. And then fourth, you get that audit-ready documentation. Look, when the assessor asks how you handle incidents, you can show them exactly what you do. It's like having the answer key before you take the test. Here's where incident response meets CMMC requirements. It isn't just good practice, it's a compliance requirement. If you're at CMMC level 2 and level 3, you've got specific incident response requirements. You've got one that says you must establish an incident handling capability. You've got another that requires you to detect and analyze indicators of compromise. And then you've got a third that says that you must track, document, and report incidents. At level 3, guess what? You're getting into enhanced capabilities, using threat intelligence, simulating responses to threats. The key word here is capability. You don't just need a piece of paper that says incident response plan on top. You need to prove through documentation and evidence that your process is understood, it's tested, and it's maintained. That means training, that means drills, that means after action reports. Strong IR capability is essential for minimizing disruption, protecting CUI, and maintaining trust with prime contractors and federal partners. So let me walk you through the core elements of a CMMC compliant incident response capability. We'll split this across 2 slides because there is quite a lot here. First, you've got policy and governance. You need a formalized incident response policy that defines objectives, scope, and responsibilities. It isn't a form you download and just file away. It's a living document that ties to your broader cybersecurity strategy. Second, you've got defined roles and communication channels. Who's the IR lead? Who handles IT support? Who's your documentation officer? Who talks to the executives? And critically, who makes the call to report to DoD if needed? Everyone should know their role before an incident occurs. And quite frankly, one of the most important people on that list is who's brewing the coffee. Third, detection and alerting mechanisms. Your systems need to be configured to detect those anomalies. Endpoint alerts, email threat protection, audit log monitoring. You also need a way for staff to report suspected incidents, because guess what? Sometimes a human catches something that the systems miss. All right, so let's go ahead and keep continuing with these core elements. Fourth, you've got incident categorization and impact analysis. Not all incidents are equal. Is it malware? Is it unauthorized access? Data exfiltration. Guess what? You can establish categories and severity levels to prioritize your response. A suspicious email requires a different response than active data theft. Fifth, you've got containment and eradication procedures. How do you quarantine those affected devices? How do you disable compromised accounts? How do you block malicious network traffic? How do you publicly display the head of the hacker that you just decapitated so that no other hackers come around? Okay, maybe not that last one. You need to document all these procedures. Include guidance on malware removal, system rebuilding, and credential rotation. Sixth, you've got recovery and restoration. How do you restore from backups? How do you verify the integrity of recovered data? How do you monitor systems for reinfection? Then seventh, lessons learned and reporting. After every single incident, you need to conduct a post-incident review. What worked, what didn't, update your IR plan based on your findings, and then retain that documentation. It's audit evidence that you are continuously improving. Now, we've talked about threats, we've talked about compliance, we talked about ransomware, and we talked about incident response. Let's bring them all together with something known as cyber resilience, the ability to not just survive an attack, but to absorb the punch and keep swinging. Cyber resilience is the big picture. It's not just about having good defenses. It's about building an organization that can withstand and recover from cyber incidents without crippling your operations. For organizations in the defense industrial base, this isn't academic. Your ability to keep those operations running despite cyber incidents directly affects mission readiness and your contractual commitments. If you can't deliver because you're dealing with a cyber attack, you're not just hurting yourself, you're affecting the broader defense mission. Building resilience involves identifying critical assets, protecting both OT and IT systems, swiftly detecting incidents, and recovering without long delays. But here's the beautiful part. Connecting resilience with CMMC enhances both your security and your compliance. Two birds, one stone, or as my grandmother used to say, two turkeys with one rock. I want to make an important distinction here. Cybersecurity and cyber resilience are related, but they are not the same thing. Look, cybersecurity is about defense. It's the firewalls, it's the access controls, it's the encryption, all designed to keep attackers out. It's essential and you need it. But cyber resilience goes even further. It recognizes that no defense is perfect. Eventually, something's going to get through. Resilience is about minimizing the damage when that happens, maintaining production, and then getting back to normal as quickly as possible. Think of it this way. Cybersecurity is like your immune system trying to keep you from getting sick, but you're going to get sick anyway. Maybe you eat some bad clams. Maybe you're around somebody who keeps wiping their nose and then touching doorknobs. You know who you are. Cyber resilience is your ability to recover quickly when you do get sick because you open doorknobs. You stay hydrated, you get rest, and you know when to call the doctor. For manufacturers, resilience means risk management. That includes your supply chain, incident response plans that are tested and ready, and your recovery procedures that get your production systems back online fast. That's really what you're looking for. So building cyber resilience follows a framework with 5 pillars. Some of you might recognize these from the NIST cybersecurity framework. That's not a coincidence. They're foundational. You've got identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And no, we're not going to make an acronym out of that. We have enough acronyms. Think of these as a continuous cycle. It's not a one-time checklist. You're always identifying new assets and risks. You're always improving protections. You're always monitoring for threats. You're always refining your response, and you're always strengthening your recovery capabilities. But let me walk through how each one of these connects to CMMC. You've got the first pillar, which is identify. You can't protect what you don't know you have. Organizations need to keep detailed inventories of IT assets, OT systems, production equipment, and data repositories. Know what you have, know where it is, and know what it connects to. This includes understanding which systems handle CUI and tracing those data flows. Where does sensitive information enter your environment? And then where does it go? Who touches it? Who, does it leave your environment and go to suppliers or subcontractors? Supply chain mapping is just as important. You need to know your suppliers, you need to know what they provide, and you know how they connect to your systems. A vulnerability in their environment can become a vulnerability in yours. The CMMC tie-in, this directly supports assessment objectives related to asset management, system boundaries, and CUI identification. Assessors want to see that you've thought this through, that you know your scope, and that you are applying controls to the right systems. The second pillar is to protect. Once you know what you have, you need to defend it. The key concept here is defense in depth. Layer your security measures so that if one is breached, others still provide protection. Don't rely on a single firewall or a single password. Have multiple lines of defense. If you're a manufacturer, this includes segmenting your OT and your IT environments. Your production floor systems should not be on the same network as your email server. If someone clicks a phishing link in email, you don't want that leading directly to your CNC machines. It also means hardening production systems, enforcing the least privilege access. Everyone only gets the access to what they need, and controlling supplier and contractor access to sensitive systems. Look, when you're tying this into CMMC, protection measures map directly to access control, system integrity, and media protection requirements. You're implementing safeguards and enforcing them through policy and technical controls. The third pillar is to detect. This is about finding problems before they become catastrophes. Cyber resilience depends on your ability to identify issues before they escalate. That requires continuous monitoring of both IT and OT environments. Attacks on production systems, you got to understand that they can unfold quickly. You need to see them coming. Anomaly detection systems can flag all of that unusual activity. Unexpected changes to machine settings, unplanned data transfers, unusual login patterns. Look, someone logging in from overseas at 3 a.m. when all your employees are in Ohio, you might want to think about that. Prompt alerting ensures that the right people know about incidents in time to take action. Detection without alerting is like a smoke detector with no batteries. What's the point? Now, how does this tie into CMMC? Well, these detection practices align with audit and accountability, system monitoring, and event detection requirements. You're building compliance and early warning capabilities into daily operations. The fourth pillar is to respond. We've talked about incident response planning earlier. This is where it lives in the resilience framework. When an incident occurs, the speed and effectiveness of your response determines how much impact it has on production and delivery. Minutes matter. Hours matter even more. Your incident response plan should outline roles, escalation paths, and communication channels for both internal teams and external stakeholders. Who's going to call the shots? Who's going to talk to customers? Who's going to notify the government if it's required? Tabletop exercises, they help teams practice decision-making under pressure. And no, I'm not talking about table tennis or foosball. Run through the scenarios. It's Tuesday morning. We just discovered ransomware on these servers. Go. See how your team responds. Find the gaps before a real incident does. How does this respond, or how does this tie into CMMC? Response measures support incident handling and reporting objectives. You need to be prepared to act quickly and to contain and mitigate incidents involving any CUI. Your fifth pillar is to recover. This is where resilience proves its worth. The goal is to restore production systems and data as quickly as possible while minimizing your downtime. That requires tested backup strategies, and I emphasize tested because untested backups are really just hope disguised as preparedness. You need redundant systems where possible and clear procedures for bringing your OT and your IT environments back online safely. Don't just flip the switch and pray. Verify that your systems are clean before you reconnect them. Then you've got continuity planning. This is what ensures that even during recovery, priority operations can still function and defense deliverables can be met. What are your most critical systems? What absolutely must keep running? You need to make sure that you can maintain those. This ties into CMMC because recovery efforts align with system recovery, contingency planning, and risk management practices. You're demonstrating not just compliance, but operational assurance after an incident. So let me go ahead and summarize how these pillars connect to CMMC, because this is important for that compliance journey that you're about to take. You need to identify which supports asset management, configuration management, and CUI identification requirements. You need to protect, which maps to access control, physical protection, and system integrity safeguards. You need to detect, which aligns with auditing, monitoring, and anomaly detection objectives. Sorry, mouth is just not working this afternoon. Respond addresses incident handling, reporting, and escalation criteria. Recover links to contingency and recovery planning. By structuring your resilience efforts around these pillars and mapping them to CMMC, you are going to strengthen your defense posture and your ability to maintain production integrity under adverse conditions. You're not doing compliance for compliance's sake. You are building a more resilient business, and people are going to want to do business with you. Now, before we wrap up this resilience section, let me highlight some common gaps we see in manufacturing environments. Go ahead and see if any of these sound familiar, even if you're not in manufacturing. Incomplete asset inventories, especially for OT systems. IT knows about every laptop, but who's tracking the PLCs on the factory floor? Then you've got unsegmented networks, where production equipment and administrative systems share the same infrastructure. That literally is asking for trouble. Limited incident response exercises. You have a plan on paper, but when's the last time you actually ran through it? Inconsistent supplier vetting. You've got great internal security, but what about the vendor who has VPN access to your network? Are they holding up their end? Then you've got addressing these gaps, which requires both technical and procedural changes. Network segmentation, expanded inventories, formalized supplier assessments, regular tabletop exercises. Look, none of this is rocket science, unless, of course, you're building rockets, but it does require deliberate effort. So I want to end the resilience section with something that's easy to overlook, and that's your culture. Cyber resilience isn't just about technology, it's about people. We talked before about how the majority, almost 3/4 of incidents happen because of people. Leadership buy-in is essential to keep that from happening. The culture starts at the top. When leadership actively champions resilience, allocating the budget, participating in training, visibly prioritizing security alongside productivity, then the rest of the organization ends up following. If the boss doesn't care, no one else will either. Cross-department collaboration really matters. Resilience works best when it involves everyone, not just IT. In manufacturing, that means production, engineering, supply chain, quality control, even HR. Everyone has a role in identifying risks and developing coordinated responses. Adopt a continuous improvement mindset. Threats evolve, technology advances, operations change. Resilience is never done. You don't win resilience. Lessons from incidents, audits, and exercises need to feed back into your refining your processes. Finally, you've got rewarding proactive security behavior. When someone spots a phishing email and reports it, you need to celebrate that. When someone identifies a vulnerability, thank them. Make security everyone's job and make it a positive, not a punishment. All right, let's shift to resources because I don't want to leave you here without knowing where to go for help. We're going to give you a copy of these slides so you don't have to hurry up and furiously scribble or take a picture of the screen with your camera, but you could if you want to. You've got SPURS, the Supplier Performance Risk System. This is where your cybersecurity scorecard lives. If you're pursuing any defense contracts, you need to upload your assessment scores here. You've got the DoD CUI registry. This is your definitive source for understanding CUI categories and handling requirements. The Cyber Accreditation Body Marketplace. This is where you find those C3PAOs. And no, those are not droids from Star Wars. That's a certified third-party assessment organization. These third-party assessors for CMMC Level 2, as well as RPOs and other CMMC guidance. Then you've got NIST 800-171 resources. Talked about that before. This includes your SSP templates, your detailed guidance on implementing the 110 controls that you need for level 2. Bookmark these. Once you get them, you're going to need them. Now, here's something a lot of people don't realize. There may be some financial assistance available to help offset the cost of CMMC readiness. Take a look at your local MEP center if you're in manufacturing. That's a Manufacturing Extension Partnership. They often offer subsidized gap assessments, workshops, and even CMMC consulting. So you can find yours at this link. These folks are specifically designed to help small manufacturers. Then you've got state cybersecurity programs. You've got some states, Virginia, Texas, California, and others, that offer grant matching, tax credits, or direct funding for security upgrades. Check what's available in your area. And don't overlook prime-funded assistance. In some cases, large DoD contractors may cover a portion of your compliance costs as part of a flow-down support program, especially if you're a sole source or niche supplier. Trust me, it never hurts to ask. The point is, you might not have to do this alone, and you might not have to fund it entirely by yourself. And of course, there's Project Spectrum. Let me walk you through very quickly what we offer, because it's all free and it's all designed to help you succeed. Well, most of it's free. On the artifacts and tools side, we have security system plan templates, plans of action and milestone templates, self-assessment toolkit, cyber readiness dashboard, SPUR score generation tools, and remediation plan templates. These aren't generic forms. They're specifically designed for CMMC compliance. We also offer one-on-one cyber advisory services. This is where it might go from free to not free. But let me just tell you right now, you can actually contact us and actually talk to a human who knows this stuff and can answer some questions for you. On the education side, we have cybersecurity training and courses, blogs with current information, news items to keep you informed, and webinars and briefings, kind of like this one. Everything is available at projectspectrum.io. Go there, create an account. It's free to create an account. We don't sell your information. We don't keep it and throw it under the bed. Look, we keep it very safe. You have access to everything on our site once you get registered. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground today, right? That means threats, CMMC ransomware, incident response, resilience, resources. Your heads might be swimming a little, and that's okay. But now is your chance to ask questions. You've been asking questions throughout. I've been seeing them pop up on my screen and distracting me every now and then. What's on your mind? What wasn't clear? What do you want to dig deeper on? Here to answer those questions is Rick Rowe. He's the director of Project Spectrum and the person who ultimately decides if I get to host another webinar. So please be nice when commenting on your humble host. Rick, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you very much, Rick. And as always, very entertaining and hopefully informative to our target audience here. So I've been watching some of the questions come through, and a lot of good questions, How do I begin? Where do I get documentation? I'm flooded with documentation requirements and things. Go to Project Spectrum. We have a lot of standard templates out there to get you started. We need to take a look, and a lot of people have come to us and says, I know I'm level 1. And as we start investigating it a little bit, level 2 shows up, suddenly CUI information because they make rocket fins or something like that. So go to Project Spectrum, investigate some of the courses. All it takes is a small registration. We're not going to, as Rick said, we're not going to sell your list or anything like that, but go there, explore the site, see if it helps you out getting started. And then in the lower right-hand corner, you have a question mark. It's an online help system manned by a real live human in the background. So ask your question, ask to be connected to a cyber advisor, and we will walk you through and help you. I hope that makes sense. So, Mark, do we have any questions here? Thank you for posting the link. The link for Project Spectrum is in the lower part of chat. One of the things that I also want to, and as I was looking at this webinar, as we were putting it together, one of the things that we didn't touch upon, even though we touched upon incident response plans, there's something called a business continuity plan. And if you don't know what that is, please Google it. And I had the distinct pleasure of suffering through 5 cyber attacks in my career so far. Hopefully it'll end there. But Some of the more interesting ones required a payment of Bitcoin of $2.5 to $3 million worth of Bitcoin. And normally you see file encryption when the bad guys are leaving. They've gotten all your data. They are just distracting you by encrypting your hard drive. And one of the things with business continuity plans is the old paper-based. Don't let this gray hair fool you. Paper-based, meaning you take, and I had the pleasure of taking the CEO's laptop of a local bank and taking it from him. And he says, well, what are you doing? How am I supposed to approve payroll? And I said, execute your business continuity plan, because your system was Genesis, meaning it started the whole thing when he clicked on non-present link. So focus on business continuity as well. I don't see any other questions in here. Does anybody have any questions or any comments to make? Because keep in mind, we will be putting this out as a YouTube video, and we will be moving forward with this. Not sure what's going on the screen here, but it's all exciting. And again, we want to thank you very much. We are affiliated with the Apex program, and it was a pleasure meeting everybody here today from the Apex program, especially Katrina, who helped us out a while back. And so, as always, a pleasure to have you, Rick, hosting. I cannot come up with more dad jokes than you did, so I'm struggling here. So
it's all good. I've got you, sir. I've got you. So, and I apologize for scrolling my my well-prepared remarks on the screen. I will try to stop doing that going forward. You know, just remember, folks, if you do have a question, as Rick said, the other Rick, by the way, just so you know, I'm not talking about myself in the third person, because that can be a little creepy. You know, if you do have those questions afterward, because you're gonna figure out a question just after this webinar ends, go ahead and log into Project Spectrum, put that right in there, and we'll make sure that we get it for you.
Yeah, let me interrupt. Suddenly, 3 questions, as always, come up. The first one is, what is the financial assistance for CMMC costs? So I personally called every Chamber of Commerce in the United States and talked to them about financial assistance. And did you know that there are millions of dollars in small business grants left on the plate every year? Contact your and there is a list that we can get you. Contact your Chamber of Commerce, your local Chamber of Commerce, because some of the requirements that are out of our control are not cheap. C3PAO, for example. Let's see, there was, do you have anything that shows the cross-tracking of security controls from 2701 or 27,001 and CMMC? Yes, we are actually putting together something, and it will be on our site shortly. In fact, on our site, we're putting 2 other things. We're putting a series of guides up there for every control in CMMC level 2, all 110, so that some of you having no IT department, but having an MSP coming in, after you take the self-assessment and you fail 1, 3, and 5, go get the guide to 1, 3, and 5. Look at it. It's human readable. It's not in tech geek speak. And give it to your IT department or give it to your MSSP or MSP and say, I need this to be yes. So we're trying to put enough tools up on Project Spectrum, templates, guides, financial grant services that are available out there. So, and if you have any questions, as Rick says, click the lower right-hand question mark and just, we will get back to you. Thank you all very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Rick. We do appreciate you. And man, I'm telling you, you know, remember, folks, it's one of those things where everybody's going to wonder why this matters, right? Did you happen to see the most recent security breach coming? Guess what? Neither did the people that got hit. Thank you. I'm here all week. Be nice to your servers. But again, if you have not started your CMMC journey yet, you really should start it. If you have started it, you're probably going to need help because you're realizing, oh my goodness, CMMC is something that, I might need a little bit of help with. And again, that's where Project Spectrum really comes in. Remember, it's kind of like that scene in The Matrix where they download Kung Fu, except we're going to go ahead and download CMMC knowledge on you. So again, want to say thank you very much to the South Carolina Apex for having us today. Now, as we wrap up, we want to make sure that you know how to stay connected with Project Spectrum. First of all, you visit projectspectrum.io for all of our tools and resources. You can email us, which is kind of like snail mail back in the day, but go ahead. Email support@projectspectrum.io if you have questions. You could check out our training webinars like this one. We have new ones regularly. And if you all liked me enough, maybe I'll be back. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube for the latest updates and even see some of our previous presentations on our YouTube channel because some of those are pretty good, although the host gets a little dad jokey. Now, that orange question mark, as we keep talking about, in the bottom right corner of the website, that's our virtual help desk. As Rick was talking about, you click it, it'll connect you with a cyber advisor who can help answer your questions directly. Look, we are here to help. It's not our marketing tagline. It literally is our mission. It really is why we get paid. So I want to say thank you to all of you for spending this time with us today. We know you're busy. We know you've got a million things competing for your attention. We genuinely appreciate you prioritizing this. I want to say thank you to Rick for jumping on and giving us all that insight and for, of course, overseeing Project Spectrum and bringing me back as a webinar host. I want to say thank you to Mark Chisholm, my fantastic colleague who's the head of strategic communications with Project Spectrum. And let me tell you, Mark does a fantastic job. Reads over my script every single time and takes out 90% of the dad jokes. So this is only 10%. Just imagine what you didn't hear. But want to say thank you to that. And of course, thank you to the Project Spectrum cyber advisors who are online helping to answer questions throughout the webinar. Again, we appreciate all of them. And we appreciate you. Look, cybersecurity, I get it. It can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. All you need to do is take it one step at a time. Use the resources that are available. Ask for help when you need it. And remember, by being here today, by learning about these threats and requirements, you're already ahead of the game. So go ahead and keep that momentum going. For the Project Spectrum team, my name is Rick again. Stay safe out there. I hope to see you at a future Project Spectrum webinar. Take care, everyone. Have a fantastic day.